I learned about the how-what variable early in my career. We had a new CEO appointed to the company, and I remember being on my floor waiting for him to come around because I knew he was coming to meet everyone. The elevator doors opened, a handsome man in a well-cut suit walked onto the floor, and all the guys that I worked with stood up as if it was in unison. It was a chorus, like they were in a dance review. And they all went to introduce themselves, and I could hear them saying, "We're getting some guys together with golf. We'd like you to join us. We're going to take some customers up north fishing. We'd like you to join us. We've got a hockey pool. We want you to be part of it." And I listened to this and the networks that were being established, and I thought, how do I make my mark? We all want to make a good impression on the new CEO, but all these guys have an inside advantage. What can I do? I pulled out my recipe box. No, I wasn't going to bake them a cake. In that recipe box, I had little files of every customer that I had interacted with. I called these customers and I talked to them about business, but I also talked to them about their families. And I learned their wives' names, I learned their children's names, I learned about their favorite sports, I learned about where they went to school and who they cheered for. And I kept all those records on those little recipe cards. In addition, I kept track of their annual sales, their consumption, how much they bought from us, how much they bought from others, what their concerns were, objections about our company. I pulled out those cards and I wrote a memo to our CEO. And I said, there's a big meeting coming up, and these are some of the customers that will be there. And I want you to know a little bit about them to aid your interaction. Well, the first thing you know, he phoned me and said, "This is great. This is all the information I've been looking for. How did you get it?" And I said, "Well, I keep a recipe box." I want to remind you that this was in the era before the internet and people had the opportunity to keep this all in one location on their computer. He said, "Come on up to my office and bring your recipe box with you." And one person after another that came into his office, he said, "Look at this. This is great. This is exactly what I want." And shortly thereafter, he went to the meeting and came back, and I was promoted. And it never would have happened if I hadn't paid attention to the how-what variable. You see, I knew that my goal was to get promoted. But if I'd just gone up and knocked on his door and said, "Hi, I'm Betty Ann. I'm a valuable employee and I needed a promotion," it wouldn't have happened. I needed an exercise to show him that I was worthwhile and worthy for the outcome that I wanted. And first of all, I had a process of getting to know all those customers, and then I shared it with him. So I showed him my value. So I did both of them together, and using gender physics, I was successful. I'd like you to take your total score on questions 16 to 20 inclusively from the Go-To Energy Evaluation. If your score was higher on part 1, you operate from feminine energy in the how-what variable, and you tend to focus more on how to get things done than what the goal is. That's not a bad thing. It just means that when you're working with others, it's probably wise to work with someone else that focuses on the goal, and you are a good partnership. And of course, you can always develop that in yourself. If your score was higher on the second part, you operate with masculine energy in the how-what variable, and you're probably more goal-oriented. Early in my marriage, my husband and I were refinishing kitchen cupboards. And I remember that he was standing over me and saying, "You're not doing that right, you're not doing that right." And I'm so goal-oriented, I'm very masculine energy, I just wanted to get those cupboards refinished. And I said to him, "I bet when you went through school, you were one of those kids that never colored outside the lines when you were doing maps." And he said, "Oh, I used to win map coloring contests." And I said, "Yes, your feminine energy in this particular variable, you're very process-oriented, whereas I'm very masculine energy. I just want to get it done." Masculine energy people can develop their feminine energy, and feminine energy people can develop their masculine energy. Now we're going to try a little exercise to help you do that. If you are feminine energy in the how, what variable, you want to develop your goal-oriented, let's focus on the outcome. Let's not worry about all the problems up front. We can resolve them later. Let's get to the bottom line of all this. The way that you do that is you put some self-imposed boundaries on yourself. I've watched people in my workshops do this really effectively. They get so wound up in the process, always introducing a new idea, something else they want to do. They start with the end in mind, and they work their way backwards, and they say, I know that I want to get this to the client by next Tuesday. And in order to do that, I have to have my slides all made up by Thursday. And that means that by Tuesday, working backwards, Tuesday to Thursday to Tuesday, I have to have 3 different options that I'm going to consider. So now we're 1 week earlier, and we can say, I can spend the next week coming up with all kinds of ideas and having a lot of fun with this exercise, but I have a drop-dead date where I'm going to have 3 alternatives to choose from, and then I'm going to proceed and choose one. And they stick with that discipline. And that's the way that they develop their masculine energy. If you're masculine energy in the how, what variable, you need to develop your how, because you're already good at your what. You're good at coming up with goals and objectives and things that you want to do, but you have to establish a system to get there. So for example, I can say, I want to write a book. I've got lots of ideas, but in order to actually write a book, I have to sit down in my chair for at least a day every week. I have to establish a system. Or you can say, I want to run a marathon. But in order to do that, you have to establish a system. You have to say, I'm going to run this many miles for this many days, and then I'm going to up it to this many miles for this many days. You need to establish some feminine energy. Discipline yourself to put in place a system to make that happen. That system is what's going to get you to your goal. It's not going to be going out on the day of the marathon and starting to run. You know what you want, but you need a system to get there. And feminine energy is that process, and it will help you reach your goals. Variable, feminine energy is the heart, and it's motivated by emotions and ideals. Masculine energy is the head, and it seeks logical and rational conclusions. Feminine energy people really follow their emotions. In fact, often they will use their emotions to tell them what to think. Feminine energy people follow their intuition. They see connections between seemingly unrelated events, and they thrive on esoteric conversations about things that are intuitive. While masculine energy people, they like things that you can see or feel or touch. They're very sensory, and they're very rational. Feminine energy people love stories, while masculine energy people want the facts. I worked for a man once that was a master at using both energies. He was so good at telling a story and so good at backing it up with facts that people had no reason to doubt him and think that it was in any way fictitious. They felt his feelings when he told a story. They let down their guards, and they were with him every step of the way. A metaphor for the heart-head variable would be like the kindergarten teacher and the high school math teacher. That kindergarten teacher is very concerned about nurturing the children, about feeling their feelings, about trying to develop them and bring them along. So they really pay attention to who they are. Meanwhile, you have a math teacher who's very concerned about making sure that the students really learn all the concepts, that they learn to think their way through things. They're much more rational. Those are overly simplified ideas because we know that good teachers, whether they're kindergarten teachers or high school teachers, are going to be concerned about their students learning the material, but they're also going to be concerned about their development. Really, those good teachers are using good gender physics because they're concerned about both. In the head-heart variable, if you're in feminine energy and you're in your heart, you could be in danger of being too much in your emotions. These people are prone to jump wildly to unrealistic conclusions. Those people who are too much in their head, in the masculine energy head-heart variable, they overthink things and they can be very heartless. Those people who are too much in their feminine energy vice are too much in their emotions. Every day is a new drama. They're like Chicken Little. They run around. The sky is falling. The sky is falling. And unfortunately, they can use their emotions to manipulate others. They'd benefit from introducing a little thinking to their feeling. If you are in your vice of the head-heart variable, you overthink things. You could be like Dr. Spock on the TV show Star Trek. He was a Vulcan, and they didn't have any feelings. And the fact that he couldn't feel things, he overthought things, and it constantly got him in trouble. Each of us need to be able to feel and join it with our thinking, because it's feelings that actually motivate our actions. We can think about what we want, but it's feelings that give us the passion to get things done. When people are using gender physics in the head-heart variable, they follow their hearts, but they take their heads with them. A perfect example was the Paris Climate Change Accord. In 2015, 196 countries came together and signed a climate change accord. Nothing like this had ever happened before. And it happened because people were able to use both. They had the analysis. They knew what needed to be done. But if they'd been too much in their masculine energy, they would have overthought it. And instead of that, you had women and men who had such love for our planet that they got it done. People who were there said it was not unlike what you expect to see happen when you have a mother bear who takes care of her cub. You notice how feminine energy, that love, can transmute, translate into masculine energy and actually get something done.